it's amazing if you look at most people's presentations, they don't give any action steps. They'll say, believe in yourself. That's the action step. It's not an action step. They'll say, go out your comfort zone. It's not an action step. You got to give them a specific thing, and that specific thing better blow their mind.
This episode, we get to talk with Arel Moodie. Not only has this guy himself generated millions of dollars through his speeches, he's spoken at the White House multiple times. He's had 3 TEDx talks, and he teaches people how to go viral with your messaging so that you can get booked within your niche. This one will have you thinking about new strategies to grow your business. Enjoy this episode with Arel Moodie. Welcome back to the Marketing for Speakers podcast. Today, I'm so excited, man. We've got Arel Moodie. We are longtime friends. He was there from the beginning for me, helping me get my speaking business up and running. So every time we get to chat, I just love it. And I know y'all are going to love it. And you're going to take away a bunch of tips and strategies that, if you implement these, you'll make more money, you'll make more impact and influence. And so we're going to talk about your signature talk, why you need one, some of the pitfalls of us who think we have one and we don't really have it. And then how to make sure you've got a good one, and then how to leverage that so to make sure that you are doing the most for your business. So Arel, before we get into business, just tell us a little bit about you, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. And I gotta just acknowledge, if anyone can see the video of this, if you're listening to the audio, you will miss out on the perfectly coiffed hair that Jake has for us today. I have a lot of hair envy as a bald man for Jake's fantastic hair. But as to answer your question, Jake, the background is I got started in the student market. I got really inspired when I was a college student, and I went up to a speaker and I said, man, in 20 years, I want to do what you're doing. And, he simply said to me, well, why wait 20 years? And I was like, well, I thought I had to be an old man to do this, right? And he was like, no, like you can speak and be kind of a big brother figure if you've got a good message. And, he talked to me about my background, and I explained how I grew up in the projects on welfare in Brooklyn, and I had started a business in college, president of 4 organizations, dean's list, wasn't a good student in high school, and kind of figured some things out. He was like, well, why don't you go ahead and talk about how you figured those things out to students? And that launched me into jumping into it. And I've been doing it for about 15, 16 years now. And I still do the student market. I still love it, but I've been doing a lot more in the adult corporate speaking space. And I love it for different reasons than the youth space, but they're both equally beautiful to me.
Wow. And what I love is that you've taken that mentor who helped you out, and then now you're helping replicate that experience to teach other people how to become speakers. And I know you've taught hundreds of people how to become speakers, me being one of them. But what are some of the cool, cool stories or profiles of people that you've been fortunate enough to work with?
One of the things about when you can get into speaking for the long game, you start having really great experiences where people will say, "Hey, there was one group which was this was really beautiful for me on a speaking side, and then on a mentor side, I'll tell you another one. But on a very quick speaking side, there's this experience I would do when I was speaking, where I'd have people stretch out and break their comfort zone and turn to someone and give them like a big old high five. It was kind of part of a bigger theme. But it was awesome because I did that at this college orientation, and these 2 people met each other because of that, started dating, and then got married. And they messaged me and said, if you never made us do that, we don't know if this would have been possible. So, there's those little things that just you can never see the impact of them in the moment until years down the line. And on the speaking mentor side, what's been awesome is that there's actually been some students that I've actually spoken to who are college students, graduated, or say, hey, I was inspired by you. And there's one gentleman I'm thinking of in particular, and he now became a professional speaker, became one of my students. And it's great to kind of see that life cycle of someone who you saw as a college student, like just getting started, to becoming their own speaker, doing very well with it. So, it's one of those things that compounds over time, and it's really beautiful to be able to impact people as a speaker and as a speaker coach.
Yeah, that is gold, man. It's like it just feeds your soul when you're doing this work and you know that people are being impacted by it and found their husband or wife. That's pretty cool too.
Hey, man, I'll take it. Maybe I'll advertise that. Be like, you want your students to get married? I got the juice.
My outcomes. That'd be
Yeah,
so
I got
funny.
I got some key
50% of
outcomes.
the people that I speak to get married one day. So let's dive in, Arel. I know that you have a lot to offer on how to deliver a signature talk, what it is, and then how to make it stand out so that you can do more of that. I mean, where do you start? Why do people need one? And yeah, where do you start?
Yeah, so a signature talk is that one. It doesn't mean it's the only presentation that you do. What a signature talk is the one that you're known for. This is the one that you deliver. If there's a room full of people who can book you to speak, this is your entry point. If someone has an experience with you, it's kind of like Coca-Cola has lots of different flavors and lots of different sodas they offer, but that classic Coca-Cola, that's their signature offer. So everyone needs to really develop and kind of hone in their own signature talk. That one that you're known for, it's what people discuss about you behind your back, it's how they communicate to you. And what I think a lot of people misunderstand what a signature talk is, how to create it, and how to make it really, really useful. So I'm happy to dive into the depth of it as much as you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, what I would love is for the listeners here to come away and think like, wow, I can't believe that Arel told us all that and we didn't pay a dime.
Yeah. And I'm happy to do that because most people, it's funny because there's two types of people I talk to who are speakers. The first goes, "Oh, I'm good with that. I don't need any help. My talk is amazing." It's like, no, 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 no. You may be a good speaker, but putting together a signature talk is a totally different skill set. It's like I know how to drive my car, but if you put me on an Indy 500, race car, I can't keep up with those guys. I don't know the structure of it. So even though I might be a good driver, the skill of driving a car, which most people see as speaking, like their skill of speaking, is totally different than constructing and being good in the same way the skill of driving in the Daytona 500 or whatever is a NASCAR, event. I don't know. I don't want to offend any Formula One NASCAR people if I interchange terms here. But knowing that skill set is totally different. And I think the difference between people who are good at speaking, public speakers, and the people who are professional speakers, they make a living and get paid from speaking, is that they understand the distinction between being a good driver on the highway and being a good driver in a professional arena. So let's jump into what I think is really important as a gut check on how good your talk is. Again, this has nothing to do with you as a presenter, your skill set speaking. It's nothing to do with that. It's about the talk itself. This is how you know objectively if you have a good signature talk. Three things have to happen at the end of every single one of your presentation. If one of these three things does not happen, your signature talk is not dialed in the way it should. The first thing is your host, the person who brings you in, goes, "Oh my goodness, I need to bring you back. This was so good." Or "I've got this other event. I need you to come back." So that rebook is super important, number one. Number two, someone in the audience has to come up to you and go, "That was amazing. I'm planning an event. Is there any chance we can get you to speak at it?" Okay? And number three, if you're a service provider or a consultant, this may not be for everyone, but if you are, someone should come up to you and say, "I want you to do that. Everything you just talked about, I want to become your client," right? So like, let's say Jake comes up and he does this great signature talk about why websites for your speaking business is so fundamentally. If he does it a really good talk, without selling, without being heavy handed, not a sales pitch, people should come up to him and go, "I want you to build my website. I need a new website. I need to be your client because I love everything that you said." So if those three things don't happen, you actually don't have a signature talk. Now, here's what does happen that makes people falsely think they have a good talk. People come up to them and go, "That was great. You did a good job. You were awesome." They give you some type of like attaboy, attagirl. So people go, "Wow, my audience loved me." But here's the thing. Do you know what it takes for someone to come up to you and say you suck? Like the average person won't do that. You know what I'm saying? The average
Yeah.
person, unless you were offensive, unless you said something like derogatory people will come up to you. But at the end of the day, if you were boring or you just tried your best, like people will still like you could be horribly boring and someone will still, because they're a nice person, say thank you, that was helpful.
Mhm.
So I don't take the humanitarian award anymore as an indication that I did a good job. My signature talk has to be good enough that one of those three things happens. And if it's not, that is a key that you got to dial in your messaging a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I think the same thing happens on the marketing perspective is you show your marketing materials or your website to your friends and they'll say, "Oh, this is so cool. I can't believe that's you," because they see your photo on the internet. But then when it comes down to it, it's like the signature talk. Unless this person is saying, "I have resources. I put my, reputation on the line for this other event and I want you there," then it's not really that much of a validation. It's just like a very kind, like you mentioned, that a boy, that a girl, you tried. Cool.
It's one of those classic things where like you show your website to someone and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh wow." Applause emoji or a fire emoji. But unless people are going, "Yo, I got to send you to my like this was dope. I am compelled to I got to introduce you to my friend or I got to connect
Mhm.
you." Unless those things happen, those are the key performance indicators, the KPIs that you're doing something right. And especially when you like care about your message and you care about moving people, it's easy for people to see that and want to like encourage you. But at the end of the day, frankly put, there's encouragement that puts you in the right direction, i.e., some of the KPIs we just talked about, and then there's encouragement that just keeps you going. And then you feel like I'm doing if anyone's ever felt like I'm doing everything right, like people love me. Why am I not getting paid? Why am I not getting paid more? Why is it so hard for me to be booked? Well, maybe you've got to dial in your talk, maybe you got to dial in your branding. And a lot of times your friends are going to say great even if it was horrible because they're your friends. So,
Right.
to me it's a very objective way to know how good you're doing.
I want to dive into tips and strategies how to make yours. But before we do that, I'm wondering, is there a scale or like a readiness position when you meet someone? And this probably happens to you, Arel, is people will say, like, maybe I should be a speaker or maybe I should have a signature talk. And you go through your mind and think, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Is there a point or a position where you think, oh, I do need this because,
Yeah,
like, is
there's
there a,
there's
yeah.
there's I've been fortunate, as you mentioned. I've actually got to train over 750 different speakers, right? So I've had a lot of time and a lot of experience working with people, and I've been able to boil it down to two simple questions. Most speakers can't answer these two questions. They can't. And if you can, you're going to do very well. The first question is, what do you speak about? It sounds so simple, but if you go to 99% of speakers and say, "What do you speak about?" They go, "Oh well, I do student success. I do leadership." Well, that's a big ass topic. Like, what about
Yeah.
leadership do you do? What about like how do you do it? So that's when I saw you, Jake, and you're like, "Oh, I show people how to throw sober parties." I'm like, that's a very clear, specific, this is what I talk about. So the
Mhm.
first question, most people, they ramble. What do you talk about? Oh, I kind of help people believe in themselves more.
Yeah. Or they give you like their whole talk in like
Yeah,
five
or they
minutes.
or they go on for like an hour trying to like, confuse you from the question you asked, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to clearly articulate what is it that you speak about, right? Number one.
Okay.
And number two, let's say you can articulate that. This is the second question most people can't answer, and to me, it's the most important question. What problem does this solve?
Mm. Yep.
Now, 99% of people I speak to, when I say, okay, you speak about student leadership, fine, I'll give you that. What problem do you solve? Oh, well, I show students how to show up. No, 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 that's what you do. That's not what problem you solve. The problem is student apathy. Okay, I'm making this up in this case. So let's say your speech gets students more involved and more engaged. That's what you do. But most people aren't clear on what problem you solve. So in your case, Jake, when you were doing Does everyone know about your whole like sober thing and
I mean,
the,
probably not. You can tell them.
no, probably not. Oh, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'll give some. For those of you who don't know, I'm giving you some archive stuff here on Jake outside of his great marketing. Because he, what I love about Jake as a designer and someone who helps with marketing for speakers is he's a speaker. He's done this. He knows this. So Jake just has a really great insight. So what's the issue? Well, the problem is college campuses don't want students getting drunk and hurting themselves and making bad choices. So the problem they solve is they cut down on negative effects of alcohol, right?
Mhm.
So if you can articulate, this is the problem I solve. Now you know what you talk about, what problem you solve. So if you want to know if you're ready to really get paid or if you're really ready to go out there in a big way, what do you speak about and what problem do you solve? And again, I can't articulate this again, and I have to articulate this again. It is not what you talk about. That's not what problem you solve. So if someone brings me in to do a motivational talk, well, what do you talk about? Well, I help motivate people. No, that's what you do. Well, what problem do you solve? Well, I help employees that are disengaged get reconnected to their team culture. Awesome. Now I know what problem you solve. If you
Mhm.
can't articulate the problem you solve and what you talk about, you're going to spin your wheels and be really, really frustrated. And that's one of the things that I do within my coaching programs. I really like beat home. If you can't articulate those two things, it doesn't matter how fancy your website is. It doesn't matter how great your marketing materials are. It's going to fall flat. But if you can answer those two questions and you put some dope branding on it, you're in an amazing place.
So if someone is there and they say, "Yes, I've got my problem that I solve. I know what I'm doing for them, and I've got this foundation. I'm ready to go. I think I'm going to become a speaker, or maybe I'm a coach or a consultant and I'm going to use speaking to find clients. So I need this signature talk that people remember me for, they know what I offer and they say yes." Like all those things you mentioned at the beginning. Like I want people coming up to me to ask to work with me, referring me. So how do we actually do that?
This is the key to a signature talk. This is the key element to it. Most people, they mess up because they try to teach five things, seven things, 10 things, right? And they believe, well, the more I teach, the more value I give. It's actually completely wrong. You actually should only be teaching one idea. There's one concept, one main core concept you should be teaching, and everything around your presentation should be built around that core concept. And the way that you discover this core concept is a strategy. I call it the coffee shop strategy. So here's how the coffee shop strategy works. I want you to imagine you delivered your talk. Okay. So the talk's over and it went exactly the way you wanted it to go. 6 months pass. You run into a coffee shop to grab a coffee or tea, whatever is your thing, and you run it in real quick. And as you walk into the coffee shop, you see two people having a conversation. And you go, yo, I reckon they were at my talk for whatever reason. You remember them. They were at your talk 6 months ago. And you overhear them and you go, hey, remember when that speaker, Jake White, came? Oh, I remember Jake White. Yeah, you remember that dude came like 6 months ago? You know what? Out of everything that he said, the one thing I remember the most that's benefited me the most is, and then I want you to imagine they fill in that sentence. What do you, as the speaker, want to hear them say to make you go, they got exactly what I wanted to get from? Exact that and whatever that answer is, that's what you build your entire presentation around. Because most speakers, the mistake they make is they ask people, well, what did you get from my talk? And whatever they say, they're like, great. I should know there should be one thing you get from my talk. If I'm doing like I do a presentation for students called Effort is Everything. If they don't get your effort is the one thing you can control that drives your results. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how rich you are. It's not about how talented you are. It's about your effort. If they give me anything else, my message wasn't clear enough. If they say, oh, you know what, you made me really realize possibilities are endless. I'm going to go, thank you so much to the person. But internally, I'm going to go, my message wasn't clear. Because if that person doesn't clearly, if they can't clearly articulate the one thing you want them to get, 6 months from now, they completely forget you. They might remember you were funny. They might remember you were like impactful, but they don't remember anything you said. And according to the learning curve, if you hear something within 7 days, you forget 90% of it. So if they're going to forget 90% of it anyway, make sure that 10% is that one thing you want them to get. So you get the one core idea, and the way I recommend coming up with that core idea, if you're like, well, I'm not sure how to do that, you simply ask yourself, what is the big domino? What is the, if they only got one idea, and I'm making this up because I don't know actually your signature talk, right, Jake? But I'm going back to your days, right? But if the one idea they got is I can have fun at a party without alcohol, if that's the one thing they got, then it was successful. So everything I do is about showing them why you don't need alcohol, why alcohol is actually bad, all these like studies and stats, and then giving them alternatives and examples and all these other things that they can do. But at the end, the core thing of that presentation is I can have fun without alcohol. And if they get that one idea, it's successful. So you want to think about what's the one big domino? What's the one thing that if they got, if I was in their shoes, would move the needle the most? And then you build your whole content around that concept.
You know why that makes so much sense? Like as you were explaining it to me, is I was thinking of like sometimes there's a song that comes on or a sound that reminds you of things. And like when someone says living on a prayer, you can't help but just start singing that song because it's in your head. And I can imagine that that's what happens when you give a great signature talk is this idea comes up about this topic that you speak of and they think, oh yeah, that's it. Arel Moodie, attitude is everything. And it makes you more memorable. The concept sticks
That's
because
right.
they're remembering all those emotions that they had and how you brought them through that journey. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, the example that I like to give is Martin Luther King Jr. gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have many dreams speech, right?
Hmm.
So the reason why that talk is probably the greatest singularly recalled speech ever of at least modern society is because it was singular in its focus. There was one core idea that regardless of the color of your skin, you're equal. And that's the dream that he has, right? If he started talking about financial and social and religious and all of these things, it would have diluted the message and it would have been an also ran. But that key concept. So again, I want if someone thinks about, the 5 second rule, you think Mel Robbins. If somebody thinks about empathy, you think about Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Like it's this concept, it's this idea that becomes owned by you. Think about the 10x rule, Grant Cardone. Like there's certain people that you think about that own a particular idea. And if you want to really succeed, you've got to become the person that owns your signature message. I have, and again, if you know what your problem is, this is like a little bonus here. Your clients think about the problems they have. You think about the solutions you offer. So people don't typically go, "Oh my gosh, how do I get my kids to have more fun without alcohol at a party?" They don't think that. What they think is, "Holy crap, a kid just drove home drunk and killed 3 people. I have to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen again." That's how they think. Then if you present, I show them how to party with alcohol. You go, I need that. So you got to understand the problem so that you can understand that's how your clients think, so you can position it. And if they have that problem and you're the guy or the gal, well, then it's a lot easier for people to find you and book you and hire you.
So let's say someone's got their one idea they want people to take home. What are
Yep.
some maybe unique tools and strategies that are in your wheelhouse that might help them like deliver this and make that impact on an audience through their signature talk?
Yeah, so there's a whole structure. So I have a coaching program where we go over something called message to masterpiece, and the whole idea is turning your message into a masterpiece. And there's a whole structure of opening, middle, end, and closing, all that stuff that take it to the next level. One of the things that I would pull out from that I would give everyone is you want to think about what's one principle. Okay. One principle. So a principle is timeless. So what's that one idea? Think of at least one principle and think about one specific, really specific action that your audience can do that they can tie directly to you. So here's what I mean by that. A principle is timeless. So I can learn a principle and use it forever. First things first, or do the important things in the morning. That might be like a principle. I can take that with me forever. But then I say, the very first thing I want you to do starting tomorrow is pull out a sheet of paper, write down 3 things you need to do, or write down everything you need to do in a day, circle the most important thing, and cross out everything and then just do that one thing. right? Now, that's a very specific action I can take because of the principle. Okay. It's specifically an action that I was not doing before. It's very rare that someone naturally would make a to do list, cross out everything, and then circle one thing. So you've got to come up with a specific principle and then a very specific action someone can take that's tied to the principle that they will connect directly to you. Because if people start doing that action, like if I say, hey, I want you to say thank you more, well, I could be saying thank you all the time. So I could be doing it and not tie it to you. You've got to come up with a very specific action. So you have principle, which is timeless, and action, which I can use tomorrow. If you do that, then people take action, they tie it back to you, they remember your principle, and you make a greater impact. It's amazing if you look at most people's presentations, they don't give any action steps. They'll say, believe in yourself. That's the action step. It's not an action step. They'll say, go out your comfort zone. It's not an action step. You got to give them a specific thing, and that specific thing better blow their minds.
Right. And it makes sense why this would be even a great marketing tool. Like it's making you more effective at your craft, but that this is going to put you inside the life of your ideal client now. And they have more moments to consider working with you or hiring you for their next event or keeping you in their life longer, whether it's on your email list so that you can let them know about your new products and services. So is there anything else that you want to add before we close out and give people a way to contact you?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is that when you look at your talk, it's really important to realize that it is one of, if not the most effective way to get more speaking engagements. So if you do a really, really good job, a lot of people will see you and you could have like the crappiest website. There's lots of speakers. They may have a crappy website, but they got damn good talk, but they're not going to get paid as much as they should. So if you have a damn good talk and a damn good website, now people go, they're worth more. So one of the things I'd love to give people this insight is, yes, you can get by on just an Instagram page. Yes, you can get by on just a LinkedIn page. Yes, you can get by on, like a Weebly website you built yourself, right? But when you actually invest in your branding and you do a good talk, then people go, they must be worth more. So you are the same person, but now you can charge, 50% more, even 100% more in lots of cases, because people's perceived value of you is so much higher. So I would say that the speech is the key, but if you really want to make more money, you've got to say, like, does someone think I care about my message? Does it look like I invested in myself? And if it doesn't, you can't expect someone to give you, $10,000 a talk if it looks like you haven't put in $500 worth of effort. So I think that's an important idea, and I just wanted to kind of end with that.
Yeah. Thanks, Arel. If people want to dive into your content, learn from you on how to develop their signature talk, I know you have the True Speaking Success program too for beginners, like I was. What are some ways if people are really resonating with you and they want to like dive into some of your stuff? Where can they go?
Yeah, so just go to truespeakingsuccess.com. So if you go to truespeakingsuccess.com, you can see all about our philosophies, our programs. I have a free training on there that you can watch that shows you more about not only how to get a signature talk, but how to find the right audiences. We call them pregnant pet presentations. So how do you find a pregnant pet presentation? And the idea basically behind that is one presentation births more presentation. So how do you find those specific? Because not every presentation is created equal. So we have a free training that shows you how to find those. And then if you can put together the stuff we're talking about and speak at those events, really, really good things happen. So go to truespeakingsuccess.com and it's got all the info on it. If anybody wants to connect with me directly, I'm literally the only Arel Moodie in the world. There is no other Arel Moodie. So if you look in the show notes or in the title, just put my name into any social media site. I'm the only one that pops up. If you're not sure if it's me, I kind of look sort of like Kanye West. I get told this a lot. So if you see a dude kind of sort of looks like Kanye East, that's me. And just, connect with me. Tell me you saw me on this podcast. I'll absolutely accept it. And if you have questions, hit me up. I'm happy to help however I can.
Awesome. Thank you much, Arel. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Jake. Thanks for allowing me to be here.
Thank you all for joining us. That was such a cool combo with Arel Moodie, and I love chatting with him. If you've taken some of the stuff that he said and are thinking, I do need to, up-level my marketing materials, whether it's print or online, on the website or social media, feel free to reach out to us at marketingforspeakers.com. And until we hear from you and see you on the next episode on Monday, wishing you a lot of influence, impact, and income.